Hey kids, it's the Mr. and Fly here, hope you're well. You find me out and about on one of my rides from the Bikers Britain books once again, and you find me in the southwest of Blighty, actually in St Ives. That down there is St Ives Bay, I hope you can see that, I don't know if you can. And St Ives, if you don't know, is in Cornwall, which is the southwesternmost peninsula of Blighty. And as I say, I'm on one of those Bikers Britain rides again, this time out of the first book, Bikers Britain. This one is called Land's End Loop, and I'm starting, as I say, in St Ives, and then we head along the sort of heritage coast where all the tin mines are, and down to Land's End, the most westerly point of Great Britain. So looking forward to that. So stick around, stay tuned, and I'll show you what this one has to offer. And there's St Ives. So this is a pretty remote part of Blighty, actually. Pretty bleak down here. My sat nav, I don't know if you can see it, the map on there, shows a story about where I am with respect to the ends of the earth and Blighty. Let's get down there close so you can see it. So yeah, right on the very tip here on the B3306, as you can see on the sat nav. It's back end of July, so the middle of the British summer, and just check out this weather. At the moment it's dry and warm, it's about 18 degrees, so by no means sweltering, but just look at the colour of those clouds over there. So I'm hoping it's going to be clear enough that we get some good views of the coast, because that's the whole point of this route. And in fact this first part of it, if you look at a map, is all green edge, so it's very scenic. But of course if it's chucking it down with rain when I get there, or if it's misty or foggy, we won't see much. But anyway, we shall see. It's pretty unusual countryside here, I guess because of the extreme weather. It's quite bleak, as I mentioned, and it's not the sort of place personally I'd want to live. Well, maybe in the summer, but certainly not in the winter. You can imagine it would be very grim indeed. But it's quite a historic coastline, this, because this part of Britain represents the heart of our tin and copper mining heritage. Back in the 1800s, late 1800s, this was actually the centre of the world's tin production. And the coast here, you can see the sea now, is littered with the remnants of Cornish tin mines. I'm hoping we're going to see a few of those as we go round. Great roads these, but not for sports bikes. If you don't know where you're going, you can come a cropper very quickly, because there's a few really tight turns and cars tend to nip around them, cutting the corners, so you've got to be really careful on these ones. And the high hedges don't help as well. One of the reasons I don't get to ride down here very often, this is probably only about the third or fourth time in my life I've been down here, is because it is such a long way from home. Where I live in Great Missenden, this took me, I think it took about 7 hours on the bike with a couple of stops to get down here. Then this ride is a couple of hours, and then it's going to be 7 hours home, so at least, possibly a bit more actually, because I'll be getting tired. So a bit of a mammoth trip. I didn't come down and back in one day, of course. I did stay in a B&B overnight, and riding back later today. Oh, there's some absolutely amazing views of the coast there. That's the Atlantic. Keep going, and then you're in the US of A. Looks like a few bikers stopped up here on some sort of ride out. Give them a wave. High vis up, which is good. Good chaps. What a view. So one of the other things that has made this area of Blighty famous of late, at least recently, is the BBC TV series, and I think there's a box set of it too, Poldark was filmed around here, of course based on mining in Cornwall. Entirely fictitious, of course, and Poldark itself, the current series, was based on one, I think, from the 80s anyway. But that brings quite a lot of tourism around here, because you can go and visit the various filming locations where that was done. Not watched it myself. You'd have to talk to the missus about period dramas. Not so much my bag, but she tells me it was done around here. Definitely looks like I might be getting wet in a minute on this particular run. Very unusually for me, I predicted that the rain was coming correctly, and I just stopped and got my waterproofs on before the rain started, so that was a bit of luck. I don't know about you, but I'm often the person that decides to put the waterproofs on just after it started raining and I'm already wet, so feeling quite pleased with myself being all waterproofed up as we head into this somewhat inclement weather. There was no rain in the forecast, of course, so we'll see how this pans out as the day wears on. Ah, the joys of the British summer, eh? The good thing is it's so out the way down here, there's not a lot of traffic. But now the road's wet, it's particularly treacherous because they are very twisty and you don't always have good visibility with these high hedges. Just give you a bit of a clean. Hope you can see okay. And I'm hoping we've come through the worst of the rain now. Visibility is certainly alright. Some lovely views up here. And there, hopefully you can see our first tin mine, or remains of the winding engine house. Anyway, so that building there with the chimney, that is a classic sign of tin mining around here. And they used to house the beam engines that were used to pump out water from the mines. And also to power winding gear, I think, to get men up and down the mine shafts. And this bit of coastline is absolutely littered with them. Oh, there's a view. Check that out. Blighty's Atlantic coast. Gorgeous, if a bit bleak. Right, I've just come through the village of Pendeen, and this is notable because as we come out of the other side, we come up to this place called Giva Tin Mine. I might just take you down there if I dare, and just show you this. It's a bit of a tourist attraction now, as you can see by all the touristy stuff outside here. But it's a great place to come and visit if you're in this area. The reason being, this particular tin mine, and there we have a statue of a tin miner, is or was the last tin mine to close in Cornwall. In fact, it was still operational in the early 1990s. They've turned it into a tourist attraction, as I say now, which is quite good because you get to look around the whole of the mining setup, how they do the extraction. You get to go down an old mine, not one of the deep ones, but a surface one, but you get an idea of what it's about. And best of all, they get to show you around via an old miner. Well, not an old miner necessarily, well, they are all old, you know what I'm saying. There's people that used to work in the mine show you around now as tour guides, so it's a fascinating tour, and it gives you a real insight as to what mining was like in those days. Right, where shall I go? Down here. Uh-oh, gravel. So yeah, well worth a visit if you're in the area, because one of the amazing things about this that you don't really appreciate just looking at the winding gear at the head here is the fact that these mines, and there are hundreds of shafts here, actually do stretch for hundreds of miles, and they go way under the sea as well. Unfortunately it closed because it became uneconomic to extract the tin when the price of tin dropped in the early 90s, and then within about 3 years all the mines actually flooded, and so it's now irrecoverable even though the price of tin has gone up again. They couldn't actually, it wouldn't be economic to get these working again. But a fascinating place, and it's built again, although this is a relatively modern mine, it is built surrounded by these old tin mine winding engine buildings that I pointed out earlier. Anyway, there we are, that's Giva. I'm obviously not going to go in. I have been in though, as you've probably gathered, on a couple of occasions, and it's well worth a look. Okay, that's Giva. How do I get out? Who says I don't do off-road on the GS? Now if you come just down the road from Giva, you can come to this place and look at, this is called Levant, and down here they have what's known as the Levant steam engine house. This is one of those famous tin mining like buildings again that houses the beam pump engines, and this one actually has the engine still in it. It's owned and operated by the National Trust, and you can go down here and see this thing operate, I think 4 times an hour they run it. But it's well worth seeing. It's fascinating if you're into engineering, because although it's a Trevithick engine. It really operates, it does operate by steam, but it really operates more by vacuum. I won't go into the details. It's sort of a condensing engine, and it works by squirting cold water into the gaseous chamber in the cylinder, and that makes it all condense and basically forms a vacuum and sucks the cylinder down. But anyway, that's for the more anaraki amongst us to worry about. But I'm just coming down here to hopefully get a view of the buildings for you, get a better view of some of these classic tin mining buildings. And there we go, there's one. And this area as well is where much of the Poldark filming took place, because these buildings are some of the best remaining that there are on the Cornish coast. Yep, more off-roading, goodness me. Getting very brave. Right, I'm hoping you can see the GoPro's got such a wide angle lens, it doesn't always do a good job of these sort of things, because there's some great scenery here, and I'm looking at 3-4 chimneys from tin mines. Let's see how close I can get. I don't want to end up going somewhere I can't get out of. There we go, I'll check that out. Classic Cornish scenery. I'll have to do a photo stop, I think. The Levant engine itself is down there in that building. Not going to attempt to get too much closer. Right, heading out from the Levant mine now. The next place that I want to take you to on this Land's End loop is a place that, well, it's a bit of a rite of passage again for all bikers, I guess, or bikers that want to do touring. Let's just wait over here. Come on. And that is, of course, Land's End itself, which is Britain's most westerly point, and therefore, if you're in the area, it has to be visited, really. And seems to be one of those places that people that are walking, hiking, cycling, motorcycle riding, driving old cars, whatever they're doing, swimming, it's always Land's End to John O'Groats, the south and west tip of the country to the northern tip. But I've not done John O'Groats yet, but I've got to get Land's End in the bag, so that's really why I'm down here. Next stop, Land's End.